one that I was willing to take on head on. To build something, to create something from scratch is truly special. I mean, it's a very rare opportunity, even with no athletes right now or even sports. I do have some coaches, and I know that they're trying to build those teams as we speak. So still face some of those challenges as we look to build this and make it special.
Now, this would have been a supreme challenge under ordinary circumstances, and you throw in the horrific coronavirus and how that's impacted the nation. That complicates things even more, does it not?
Oh, it truly throws a wrench into any aspect of trying to be productive. We have some momentum. It's not just for my institution as we are looking at building this. I know we're talking with other athletic directors and some of my colleagues across the country. I mean, it's every aspect of higher education and athletics. So yeah, it's a challenge, it's a hurdle, but I know together as we work through this, we'll find some common ground and do what's in the best interest for the community, for the students and our sport programs for sure.
I know, having known you all these years, and you were after you understood that football was over, you were going to get into some kind of an administration post, and you spent time in compliance at two schools, New Mexico and UCO, down here in Edmond. But eventually you wanted to be an AD. How did this all come about?
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually did some compliance as well at Oklahoma State.
That's correct.
It was for a short period of time. So a gentleman by the name of Scott Williams, for those that remember, was the Senior Associate Athletic Director of Compliance. He replaced Rick Allen. So during my day, I said, look, I want to become an athletic director. And talking with Scott and some of the other administrators, but I remember talking with Scott, and I said, well, what's the shortcut, right? It was like as a young administrator, you're like, hey, just give me the shortcut to get there. And I was no different. And, Scott really, gave me some knowledge on how athletics works, and he laid out the options, and he talked about compliance and asked him about his role. And I said, well, it seems like you have a pretty significant job here. How does this relate to everything else? So he talked about how compliance touches everything within athletics. And I mean, it touches everything, whether it be donors, whether it be student-athlete services, welfare, academics, everything flows through. And so to be an athletic director, that was my goal, compliance was the avenue that I sought, because I want to be able to learn how the internal side of things worked, to be able to get a foundational knowledge. And long story short, it led me to my current position as the Director of Intercollegiate Athletics and Recreational Sport at A&M San Antonio.
How did that come about, the actual contact? I mean, being a native of San Antonio had to help, I would think. But what about the president of the university? How did that all come about?
Yeah, so really, I've been kind of eyeing the opportunity. I knew that something was on the horizon, and I know that they didn't have sports at the time I first came about, knowing about the university. When I was doing some research, I saw that, and I anticipated that athletics was going to come, and I was right. And so all the while, I was preparing myself to be able to step into that role. Through many avenues, the president has done well. She has taken this university and elevated it to the next level. She was looking for an athletics director that not only could connect to the community, but understood the values of the campus and was able to work hard, because building something from scratch, you got to have some resiliency, you got to have some grit. So she was looking at many different facets on how to evaluate the right type of individual. I know for me, I put in a lot of work at my previous institutions to try to position myself to be an athletic director through professional development, through talking to my colleagues, through having mentors, and also being from San Antonio. You got to believe that I definitely use that to my advantage because it really means a lot to me. It's my home, like Stillwater's my home. I mean, this is where I cut my teeth. This is where I grew up. And I want to be able to do something profound and something that's challenging, but it could have a profound and lasting impact for the community. So it all worked out. She liked what she saw, as well as the committee, and the skill sets that I've been able to develop has allowed me to be able to step into this role. And even though this is something new as far as building from scratch, I still feel with the support that I have that it could be done. Even with COVID-19 surrounding us, I still feel confident with the resources and the people that we'll be able to get through this and create something special.
Now, you will eventually be on the NAIA level athletically and play in the Red River Athletic Conference when things loosen up and you get things going. Again, we talked before we went on the air. Even though it's an NAIA level, athletic directors at that level have as many problems and as many challenges as I say, Mike Holder at Oklahoma State. You're still dealing with budgets. You're still dealing with athletes. You're still dealing with rules and regulations. It may not be as big, however, the same challenges every day when you come to the office.
Yeah, absolutely. And, through this, with the NAIA, we've been accepted for membership into the NAIA, so that's a huge milestone for this young institution. So we look forward to doing great things with that membership. But yeah, absolutely. The challenges that I face, and even within the NAIA, are the same challenges that all athletic directors, all administrators are facing across this country. Even though I do not have student athletes at this point, it is still how will this impact the student athlete experience? How are we preparing for that during the summer, during the fall, during the spring? And are we able to put ourselves in the position to be successful academically, athletically? How can I contribute towards helping with enrollment or other facets of the university? We always want to make sure that we're lockstep with our leadership and with our community. So, yes, the same challenges. It may look a little different considering associations and or size and scope of university, but at the end of the day, we're all in this together and fighting the same fight. And I've actually leaned on a couple of my colleagues from the NCAA side, from the Power Five, in Division II, Division III, and within NAIA, but I've leaned on them too just to kind of get their thoughts. So, and I can tell you that, yes, we're all facing the same challenges.
You know, you do have 4 sports, I guess, on the books, if you will, even though nobody's playing anything right now. So tell me about those and what you anticipate realistically about adding to those sports.
Yeah, so, the 4 sports that we are starting out with at A&M San Antonio: men and women's soccer, softball, and men's golf. And so within, I would say, the next 2 to 3 years, projection is to be able to add on 3 more sports: men and women's basketball, in addition to women's volleyball. But I will say this: I'd be remiss if I did not mention the students here at A&M San Antonio are great. They're the ones that put forth the initiative and wanted to vote to overwhelmingly, I think 85% for those who participated, to support this initiative to have intercollegiate athletics. So I'm forever indebted to them for their vision. But, the next steps after, once we get to the 7 sports, it'll be up to the students and our leadership and the community for where we go from there. But we're starting off with the 4, and we look forward to doing great things as we all adjust to this new normal and figuring out just how we can have the best impact for the student athletes, for the community through sports. And
I'm sure that we're really putting the cart before the horse here, but football is in the big picture, correct? I don't know how many, especially from somebody like Darnell Smith.
So being a football guy, and I guess all sports guy, but yes, I would say Texas is a state, like several other states, like Oklahoma. I mean, football is an emphasis, and I'd be remiss if I did not say that those conversations did not happen. People have asked me about football. People have talked about bringing it on. I don't have a timeline for any of that. The hyper focus is on the 4 sports that we have, and then after that, looking at the 3 we anticipate adding. But I will say that it's not out of the realm of possibility to have discussions. It's just that's so far down the road right now that I couldn't even give you some accurate descriptions or answers as far as philosophy or scope.
What are facilities like there as we speak? And I know what you envision them to be, but for the sports that you have on the books right now, what kind of facilities do they have?
Yeah, that's a great question. So facility-wise, we are still building and constructing, just like with our programs. We anticipate we will have a softball field and a soccer field that is underway right now. It should be completed sometime soon, pending no other obstructions. And we hope to be able to build that into competitive spaces in the years 2, years 3. So during its initial phase, it will be building it, and then hopefully over the next couple of years, turning that into or transitioning it into competitive spaces. As far as with golf, we are partnered with some of our, partners and vendors here within the city to be able to utilize their courses and working through those discussions. And as far as basketball and volleyball, part of the conversation and looking at our master plan, we will explore and dive into building a recreation athletics facility for not just recreational sports, but for men and women's basketball, for volleyball to be housed, in addition to the other athletics components. So it's slowly but surely we will get there, but it's one step at a time, and I think that the trajectory that we're on puts us from a fiscal standpoint right in alignment to meet our goals on completion of these projects.
We'd be remiss if we didn't talk about a couple of things here before we let you go, and one of them is we were joking before we went on the air. I bet your phone has come alive since you became the AD. Maybe former teammates, maybe people you've known in the business, going, "Hey, Darnell, you need a coach to."
Yeah. Yes. I can't give any names, but I've had a lot of my colleagues reach out to me, inquiring about opportunities, some for themselves, and then but some for other people as well, because they know me and they know that as a leader, what can complement me. So I'm very appreciative to my former colleagues and to my colleagues and those who have reached out and continue to reach out to try to put good people with me so that I can really build this and build a culture that can sustain student-athlete excellence and that fits in with the community. But yes, as far as some of the sports and positions that they've asked about, like I said, there will be other sports down the road. Keep my fingers crossed for sure. And who knows? Maybe we'll see. Maybe we'll see some familiar faces with some of these positions. I can't call it, but we'll who knows what the future holds.
I can't count how many interviews you and I did back when you were playing here, and little did I know I'd be talking to a future AD. At the time, we were kind of going over the game last week and then one coming up, whatever it was we were talking about. But what do you remember? And this is a general question, but you got a chance to be part of 3. I think if I'm remembering correctly, you got to be part of 3 bowl teams while you were here, and the last one was significant because you were part of the Independence Bowl team to beat Alabama. But what do you remember about your stay here, football wise?
Yeah, and 4 bowls actually. The 2002 Houston Bowl.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Of Kevin Williams, and Kevin was phenomenal. All of his teammates, were great. And the Cotton Bowl, and I get to tell the story about how we were coming back, and had we had that extra possession, things would have been a lot different against Eli Manning and that team. And, so my experiences at Oklahoma State are great. I love everything about it. It's my alma mater twice over. I still stay in contact with a lot of people there inside of athletics and even outside of athletics. Academics has always been valued there. Because of my experience at Oklahoma State, I am who I am today to be able to lead this athletic department and recreation department at A&M San Antonio. If I had to pinpoint specific memories, that'd be very, very difficult. I will say that outside of football, my fondest memory is meeting my wife. Met her in sports marketing class, and and from there, it's been a blessing ever since. And then, just being able to step foot on campus for the first time. And I remember going into Stillwater when it used to be that old bridge.
Mm-hmm.
For those that remember, it's like, hey, how much weight can this bridge actually support? So you're driving through, you're like, wait, don't let that 18-wheeler catch up to you. I mean, to the Rust Bucket or Lewis Field, very, very nostalgic memories. And so that first time that I stepped out onto the field, that's a memory that I'll never forget, seeing the crowd and seeing the sea of orange and really getting the grasp for what this meant to be a student athlete and be a part of that family. It's so many different things, but, graduating, not just with 1 degree, but 2 degrees, because it meant that much to me. And being a senior significant, as well as being an outstanding senior at Oklahoma State. So all these things academically, athletically, the academic staff always challenging me. My coaches, Coach Gundy, and even Coach Miles and my position coaches, the stories that they would tell, the leadership that they provided in helping us get to and win games and, show some grit. And I'll cut with this because I could go all day, but I know we don't have all the time. But I'll end with this. The friendships that I've made are outside of my wife and outside of the experience, but the friendships that I made are my most fondest memories, and that's why I appreciate individuals still reaching out to me to this day, because that really says a lot about not just them, but about what it means to be a Cowboy.
Well, we always had a good time when you were here, and you were a treat to watch. And not too many people, I don't care, when you start adding them up, can say they actually were on the other side of the line across from Eli Manning. I mean, that's not too many people.
Yeah.
Now you can embellish it and say, well, I sacked him 5 times, and I mean you can go into that if you want, but we'll let you tell those stories. But hey, we didn't even cover about half of what we wanted to cover, but I got your number. We're going to get you back because there's a lot more things we want to catch up on, especially as you make progress there at Texas A&M San Antonio. And I do appreciate your time, but it's great to talk to you again.
Yeah, absolutely. Please. I mean, I'm happy to be on anytime. Thank you just for even thinking about me. I know there's a lot of people out there, and so I'm just very happy to be a part of this and be a part of the Cowboy family, for sure.
Well, hey, people still remember you, and I do appreciate it again. I'll let you know when we can do it again, and we'll get into the other half of the questions I have that we never got to. But get back to work again, and I do appreciate what you're doing down there. It sounds like a heck of a challenge, but if there's anybody who could do it, I'm sure it's you.
All right, I appreciate it, and thank you so much.
All right, bud. Thank you. Talk again. That's Darnell Smith, and one of the just a treat to be around when he was a student athlete here. He was a just tremendous student, and emphasized the student part. When you're a 4-time first-team academic selection in the conference for 4 years that you were here, that says a lot about your dedication to the academic side of things. And he was truly a student athlete, no doubt about that. And he's got himself a challenge, but he sounds excited about meeting it, and I'm sure he will. We'll catch up with him somewhere along the line.